We were lucky that we managed to schedule this around the time. We're actually recording on the Monday. So World Series Game 5 has just happened last night. We like to talk baseball as well. I know sometimes you, Turner Peckeris, great podcast if you like baseball. Definitely go check him out.
Oh, yeah.
We'll occasionally have a little chat about, hey, did you see this? Did you see that? Obviously my British friends don't really talk baseball much, so I certainly appreciate talking to you guys about that. Obviously in DC right now, we thought we would win the World Series pretty much as a city. And, they've lost 3 games in a row at home. I think they jinxed it because they actually practiced the trophy presentation ceremony before Game 3 had even happened. Even the Brit knows that you don't do stuff like that, particularly as a Red Sox fan as well, that you just don't jinx things like that. So this is obviously 2 days before. This is obviously before. I'm going to say we're released on Friday, by which time we'll know who the champion's going to be. Predictions and good cop or bad cop moments from what you've seen in the World Series so far.
Well, bad cop is first and foremost Max Scherzer getting hurt.
Yeah.
Which is, for me, I've followed his career for quite some time. I remember watching him as a Detroit Tiger before he came down to Washington. But yeah, that was definitely bad. It was hard for me to look at it. I believe 2 nights ago, as we're recording on Monday here. It was Saturday, right?
Yeah.
Or no, right? Yeah, Saturday. Where he got scratched, and I'm like, I didn't even realize that until my buddy from Ohio, Justin, texted me. He said, "You watching the World Series today?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm looking forward to watching Max pitch." And he's like, "Dude, this is probably maybe 6 o'clock, and it was about the pregame was starting." And he's like, "Yeah, he screwed up his back. He's got back spasms or something." And I'm like, "Oh, well, that comes out. Oh, it came down like 2 hours ago." I'm like, "Oh, well, I guess I got to kind of pay attention to baseball Twitter or something." And it was hard, and I was hoping Joe Ross would do well, but I wasn't really, thinking he would do as well.
He doesn't inspire the same level of confidence.
He was going to be doing enough to get that win, and unfortunately, he did not. So, but good cop is probably the only good cop we're going to be able to talk about for the Nationals. I almost called them the Senators for a second there. But is the first 2 games.
Yeah.
For the Nationals, I'll be honest, it surprised me going to Houston and beating probably, very arguably, if not the 2 best pitchers in Major League Baseball this season, being Garrett Cole and Justin Verlander, and beating them. Unfortunately, the next 3 games were kind of the complete opposite. But there's not too many clubs out there that can come close to beating Houston because they're so well rounded. And it was a conversation a couple of guys at work that I work with that are baseball fans. We have I used to be in a fantasy baseball league with them, pay league, and kind of got out of it because it was like, okay, it's gotten too much, and I kind of want to enjoy watching baseball instead of.
I hear you on that. Yep.
Try to take money off of it.
Yep.
But we were trying to find a weak spot for Houston, and then the only thing I could come up with, and it's not really a weak spot, is their relief pitching. I don't think they have a weak spot.
There's not many, if they have any. And certainly Washington's been dogged by relief pitching all year. That's been the whole thing, that those guys need to pitch at least 7 or else they have no chance at all. Yeah, the fact Garrett Cole didn't lose until, I think his previous loss was May, is absolutely incredible. You can go such a prolonged period. I got one good cop moment from Washington. Certainly Game 3, Game 4, and Game 5. The Baby Shark thing. It's just so over here right now that everybody loves it. First time I saw that, I was like, that's brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. Everybody's totally into it. Even if you hate that song, particularly if you got little kids and you've heard it a million times, suddenly it sort of rejuvenated it. I think it works perfect for baseball. I think that would totally distract the pitcher. You're obviously used to hearing it because it's your song, but for the other team to hear that, that's got to put you off your game a little bit, I think.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the only sport, that, you can take your boys to, I can take my son to, and it's a family atmosphere, and you can sit there and you can have sing-alongs.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Obviously you're not going to be able to take them to a football game or something like that. Maybe you can get away with maybe a hockey game with a minor league or NHL or whatever. But, you can't really get away with taking them to too many professional or minor league sporting events and have that type of atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up with it. I know you have, your boys have.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain when a lot of people ask you, okay, well, it's kind of comparing it to being a wrestling fan for so many years. Why do you watch wrestling? Why do you watch baseball? I'm like, I don't know. I just grew up with it. I enjoy watching it. I enjoy being associated with it or playing it or whatever. And, believe it or not, it kind of relaxes me. You know what I mean? I sit there with a cup of coffee or a beer or whatever, and it's, have at it, But I actually somebody actually told me this. I have another good cop moment. It may be a little bit, risque, so if Mason can, cover his ears.
He's sleeping like a baby, I'm hoping, right now.
But apparently, I didn't see this because I ended up, turning it off last night because I had to be up early for work this morning. But apparently there were two young ladies, we'll call them, behind the pitcher's mound, or behind the home plate, excuse me.
Yes.
And wearing yellow shirts.
Okay.
And I'm sure you saw this, was probably on social media, but they decided to flash the pitcher.
Ah, now I've seen this before previously, but I hadn't heard it for this game. Actually, I hadn't seen that story.
I'm pretty sure this was Saturday night because I don't think they didn't play a lot yesterday, so for a travel day. But so pretty much they were basically banned from every baseball game for the rest of their lives.
Oh no!
I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, how do you know? How can that happen? That it's not like the old school. You take their picture and put it by each and every ticket booth or whatever.
Yeah.
But, I just for obvious reasons, it's a good cop moment. But I just found it fairly funny that would happen and take such extreme measures.
Huh. All right, I guess as a wrestling podcast, we should probably move into segment one, but I definitely wanted to make sure I talked to you a little. I love talking baseball, and it would have been an opportunity missed in the middle of a World Series not to talk about what's a truly interesting World Series right now. Actually, you mentioned the Senators. I think I read today that it said that the last time when the World Series was played in Washington, they were 3-2 down. It was actually the Senators, and they did go on to win the World Series. So we'll have to see if history repeats itself.